And welcome back. It's time for our Capitol Report with Pat McGuigana of CapitolBeatOK.com. Pat, this week you reported on a report that's out that assesses freedom in the 50 states. What does this report say about Oklahoma?
Oklahoma got very high ratings. This is the annual, or I shouldn't say annual, frequent report that comes from the Mercatus Center at George Mason University in Virginia, where I lived for 10 years. And the Mercatus assessment of the 50 states, Oklahoma is essentially tied with North Dakota for the most improved state in terms of human liberty, individual freedom, over the past 10 years. They look at regulatory issues as they affect the individual. They look at taxes as they affect the individual. And then personal liberty, issues of personal liberty. And they blend those pretty much equally weighted. The top 5 states, the best in their assessment was North Dakota, second was South Dakota, third Tennessee, then New Hampshire, then Oklahoma. And as I pointed out, Oklahoma being essentially all but tied with North Dakota for the greatest improvement over the last many years. The worst states might not surprise people. In 50th place in terms of freedom, last place, New York. And then in ascending order, California, New Jersey, Hawaii, and Rhode Island. And it's kind of humorous, they pointed out that Rhode Island can take some comfort in the fact that they are far removed from the other 4. They come out 45th, but they're much, much better than even Hawaii, the next one. So this was a fascinating report. I want to point out it's 223 pages. Each state gets 2 pages that summarize its status, but all the rest of the report is analytical. It goes into the why and the details of how they reach their assessment.
Is the analysis very black and white, or are there some shades of gray here?
You know, there's definitely shades of gray. Looking at Oklahoma, for example, they say spending is relatively high given the state's poverty and given the state's size and number of citizens and so forth. A large number of government employees per capita by the time you combine local government with the state government. They highly credited the state for having low taxes and for having comparatively, relatively low debt. Now, they also pointed out population shifts. This is one of the, it's always interests me what other people in the media initially latch onto. And in this case, other reporters have immediately latched on to population shifts because the top 5 states, the best states in their assessment, have gained population significantly. The bottom 5 states are losing population significantly. That was of interest. Now you ask shades of gray. There's definitely shades of gray because this group is libertarian and they do care about personal liberty, and they score Oklahoma comparatively low. Not the worst in the country, I think that was Mississippi. But when it comes to personal liberty, they slapped pretty hard at Oklahoma. And for one, Ryan Kiesel, former state legislator that now runs the ACLU, was critical of the report. I would encourage him to read it, though, because it actually points out some of the things that he would consider a negative, but the state still comes out well when you look at all these factors.
So does this Mercatus report have any implications for what our lawmakers, policymakers should do next?
It could. Very quickly, besides Kiesel, of course, I talked to the governor's spokesman. I talked to Preston Dorfinger, head of the Office of State Finance, and was able to talk to Speaker Shannon. And all 3 of them, as well as former Representative Kiesel, I think would find interesting the things they recommend. Cut spending and the size of the government workforce until we reach the national average, in the national per capita average. More vigorously protect individual property rights. And Speaker Shannon in particular latched onto that because he pointed out one of the things he wants to do is return some state property to the private sector, get it back on the tax rolls, for one thing, but also deplenish the state's role in the economy. Finally, the state's high incarceration rate was highly criticized in the report, and they recommend that Oklahoma implement policies to get to the national average of incarceration for crimes rather than the long sentences that we have. Very interesting report. By the way, Mark Costello also commented very favorably about the state's ranking.
All right, well, you can read more about this and other topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. For Pat McGuigana, I'm Alex Cameron. Have a great day.